But unfortunately, as I alluded to a few minutes ago, that whenever we try to tackling problem and we could not come to some kind of division of labor and clear principle of how we can work together, it often falls through the crack. And the issue of economics concept of resolving the problem of global warming can be seen from economic point of view like a public good. Pardon my economic background for me to raise a conceptual framework like that. When it's a public good, the problem therefore is if you try to seek benefit without willingness to invest, and you can get away with it, and you can derive benefit without having to invest yourself, then it's natural that everyone who are participants in the whole system will try to free ride. Given that kind of ideas, and when you move further to the issue of moral hazard, if something happens and you know someone else will take care of it, and you at their cost, then it's likely that you have a failed attempt. Worse still, if you can violate some agreed principle and you benefit, why if you cooperate and act like responsible citizen of this earth or responsible government of this earth, and when you are so responsible and cooperative, you lose out, then no nation would be willing to comply. Therefore, my suspicion in my address this afternoon would be to think more not in terms of economic and management and less technical when we try to save this planet. If we think of all the technicality, we have all the scientists who know absolutely tiny details of how to solve technically the problems that is being created in this planet. The planetization of concern is there. The technicality of the understanding of the problem is there. But the management and the economic ability to work through that framework is still not quite there. This is why even the superpower like the US, who know full well what they need to do, refuse to sign the Kyoto Protocol. This is why emerging countries who are on the horizon of development of economics phase, where they want to catch up with the developed nations, have argued unceasingly that the westward developed nation has damaged the environment earlier for their own economic well-being. And therefore, why should we shoulder the responsibility of the planet and be at the recipient end of less aggressive economic growth? The issue of economics, therefore, looms large at the forefront. This is what I am trying to say in this conference, that possibly we need to assemble a more multidimensional stakeholders who can come and brainstorm on the practicality of how to make sure that the economic and management framework is cohesive sufficiently to make planetization of this concern a reality. My feeling, therefore, is to say that we do not have enough examples of this clear framework that is agreeable. We have seen example of political willingness, which I appreciate so much. Being a politician myself, I do know that the political will at the highest level is important, yes. We need to admire Sweden for such political leadership who have focused, for example, on the issue of oil-free economy. And so bold and brave in set forward the ideas as a nation, visionary ideas of an economy that would not require too much oil-based kind of economy. This takes political courage to declare even direction of where we're going. We have to admire many countries who make some sort of an attempt politically, but this is hard to come by. Most political animals are just making sure that the next 4 years they're back in office. And therefore any issue that deals with the long-term horizon is dropped conveniently into the background, because after all, the voters would not live long enough to vote for you if you save the planet. So political leadership that really have clear understanding and concern that you are more than just political leaders, but you are people that need to be statements that think of the future generations as well, are in need. And once you find those political leaders who have vision for these long-term issues, they need to be encouraged. My suspicion is that there need to be collaboration between bodies outside politics to work with those specific, hand-picked, chosen politicians who have heartfelt concern for the future of this earth. My concern would be, can we find political leaders, say in Thailand, given the conference is right here today in Thailand, who look beyond the tension of today and yesterday or the last 5 years and not knowing whether they'll survive the next week. How will we nudge them into the mode of thinking that can we chart the horizon for Thailand to think of the economy that is based on zero waste as I'm proposing today? Would we find politicians who are willing to work through the nuts and bolts and all the details to make sure that our economy is not run on unsustainable pattern of energy consumption like what we are doing today? Would we have far-sighted politicians who are willing to declare that we will work only with technology that is environmentally friendly, clean and green? Would we be willing to even attempt towards somewhere near, I wouldn't say absolutely zero, but near carbon-free society for the future? Would we find politicians who are willing to say, I will measure for my performance by seeing the temperature drop within the next 4 years for 1 centigrade or 1 Celsius in the very tropical, hot Bangkok? Would we find politicians who has vision, who are willing to commit themselves to work towards such society where environmental issue is almost a dogma that people live by? A willingness to have consciousness for environment in every decision making we make? Who would be willing to cultivate media personalities, who many are sitting here, who have concern for the environment, to allow them to play the role? Would we have politicians who are willing, who allow all the factories that are producing goods in this country and beyond, who would have standards that can abide by the rule so that we don't have Mata Put problem in the future? International standard that is friendly to the environment. Would be willing to find politicians who will encourage socially responsible entrepreneurs to come in and invest and give them the incentive to come in. Not only any kind of investment through our Board of Investment Promotion, but set up, may I suggest, another segment body called Board of Investment for Social Enterprise that have social concern and create social value, responsible investment, Would we have politicians that would be willing to pass law that is tough and yet willing to follow through and enforce with one standard for all? Would you find those politicians with commitment to be willing to allow the community to participate in this in a real way, not a token way, so that you can just get their votes cheaply?